It's a question that is surprisingly controversial amongst MCU fans. Do the TV series count as canon? Are they part of the MCU? Well, I'm not going to go into that whole big issue in its entirety in this video, because I'm talking about one show in particular, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And not whether or not it is in the MCU, because I am firmly on the side, as I'll talk about in a minute, of that at the very beginning, definitely in the MCU. But the question today is it still in the MCU in the latest series? Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my channel where I talk about all sorts of geeky pop culture stuff that I like. And I like the MCU. I like all of the MCU. I like some of it more than others, but I like the movies. I like the main TV series, the ABC airing TV series. I like the Netflix TV series. To me, it is all part of the MCU. And I don't just mean to me, I mean it is part of the MCU. It was firmly established early on that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. takes place in the exact same continuity as the rest of the movies. You had Phil Coulson coming back from the dead, from his death in the Avengers. You had that whole first season. There were various episodes where they were reacting to stuff in the movies. So, it was definitely part of the MCU. My question today is it still part of the MCU? Season 1, definitely part of the MCU. And Season 2, and Season 3, and Season 4. And I maintain that it is absolutely 100%, the first 5.5 seasons are absolutely definitely part of the MCU. But we're now 4 seasons into Season 6, or at least we're 4 seasons in the UK. If you're watching this in America, I think you're a couple of episodes ahead of us. So, I don't know how many, but you might have more information than I have. I'm up to episode 4. It came out last night in the UK and I watched it this morning. So that's the information I've got and what I'm going from. And here's the big thing. Here's the thing that made me want to make this video and just talk about the subject. I haven't even got any firm views on it yet, but here's why I wanted to bring the subject up. There's no mention of the snap. None at all. And that made me think, okay, so is it part of the MCU still? And if it isn't, how can the earlier seasons be part of the MCU when the current season isn't? Let's talk timelines. So, at the end of Season 5, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. team get kidnapped, sent into a time-travelling monolith, and end up decades in the future. I can't remember, 70 years I think it is in the future. Earth has been destroyed. They are on a spaceship, a floating space orbital thing, amongst the rubble of Earth. There are Kree there. It's run by the Kree. They're all slaves to the Kree, basically. And, and eventually they work out a way to time travel back to the Earth that they came from, the time period they came from. Now, one important factor here is that Fitz did not travel with them to the future. He, however, stored himself away in a cryogenically frozen pod, went out into space in a spaceship, and waited 70 years cryogenically frozen to wake up to join them instead. Then, like I said, they all travel back. Coulson dies, and so does Fitz. And those last few episodes where they're back on Earth, back on their current timeline, there are hints there that nothing said absolutely directly, but there are references to something going on in New York. There's some kind of incident going on in New York, and we're led to believe that that is the start of Infinity War, where Thanos' minions' ships arrive in New York and attack. That's the bit where, Bruce Banner, Doctor Strange, who else is there? Iron Man, Tony Stark, and all that lot are in the Sanctum Sanctorum, and they come out and New York's being attacked. That's what we're led to believe is going on there. So in terms of timeline, the end of Season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the very beginning of Infinity War. Now, there's no absolutely clear indication of how long Infinity War as a movie takes place over, what period of time it takes place over. But I think we can generally, assume it doesn't take too long. Maybe a couple of weeks, at most a month, I would say, tops. It does not take a whole year or longer. You can tell that by just the way they're reacting. The people that go into space, Tony and Spider-Man and stuff. The way they are acting, the way they're interacting with each other, it's like they've fairly recently left Earth. This is not they've been stranded there for like a year. So that in terms of the timeline, in terms of Infinity War, that takes place in a relatively, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month max. So then we come to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, which starts, we are told, a year after the events of the end of Season 5. So we are, in terms of the timeline, definitely what should be post-snap. And yet, there is no mention that half the world has descended into ash, has gone out of nowhere. None of our regulars have gone. So, and they don't mention losing any loved ones. It just seems very unlikely that if this season is set in a world, the same MCU, where that happened, that they wouldn't mention it. Now, look, it's not insurmountable. It's possible that they just haven't mentioned it. I mean, there's lots of stuff that I've always maintained that the movies never mention the TV shows, and that's fine, even when it kind of goes, well, you'd kind of mention that S.H.I.E.L.D. is operational again here. But hey, maybe, they got a constrained time period, time frame to tell these stories in. They've got 2 hours to tell a movie in. They're not going to bother with that information. And it, you can fudge your way around it. And you could fudge your way around this as well. But, and I am so wanting to, because I so want this to still be part of all the same continuity. But at every episode that goes by where they don't mention the snap, it gets harder and harder. Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this moment should be in that world, in that time, in the middle, at the beginning of that 5-year gap where everyone's still mourning the losses of their loved ones. And to not have it mentioned at all is very strange. So maybe it's not in the same continuity of the movies anymore. But given that I still firmly maintain that it started in the same continuity as the movies, and that you can't just ignore that, and until the movies outright say on the screen that that's not the case, then I'm sticking with that. The first 4.5 seasons, how do we explain this? And I think it's built into what happened in halfway through Season 5. It's time travel. The future that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. team time travel to at the beginning of, or midway through Season 5, is, there's no mention of the snap in that either. In fact, the planet has been destroyed, but not by Thanos, apparently. It's by what we're led to believe may be Quake, but we find out later is a completely different meta-human that they come up against. So already there's some kind of inconsistencies there. So we got time travel. So as we found out in Endgame, time travel into the past can certainly split you off into different timelines, different multiverses. Is that what happened here? I mean, they went to the future, not the past, but then they came back into the past. There's also the added complication of Fitz. Fitz is a bit of a paradox in this situation, because in one timeline, he stays in cryogenically frozen for 70 years, awakes 70 years in the future, helps the team out where they've already been transported to, and then they all come back together. That Fitz then is killed. But as we're seeing in Season 4, things are already slightly deviating from that. Fitz has woken up early and has lost his cryogenic pod, has just reunited with Gemma that had already been to the future and travelled back with other him. Oh my god, this is getting confusing. What I'm basically saying is the timeline has already changed somehow from what it was on that original trajectory. So in answer to the question of how Season 6 can be in a different timeline from the rest of the MCU movies, but all the other seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are still within that same timeline, that same continuity, well, there's your answer. Time travel and divergent timelines. I don't know if they built it in as a contingency because they've been knowing that they have had this difference with the movie. Behind the scenes, there's been this difference and this vying between the two sides of the TV side and the movie side for a few years now. So maybe they built this in deliberately. Maybe they put the time travel there so that they could go, hey, look, bit of time travel and in continuity, we're now our own timeline and we can do whatever we want and we don't have to worry about the movies. That would be quite interesting. And it's how that could happen. Let's also talk multiverses, because I think that's playing a part in this season as well. Multiverses have been hinted at in the trailers to Spider-Man Far From Home. We haven't seen that movie yet as the recording of this video, so we don't know how that's going to play out, if they do exist. But there's also slight hints in the current season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that multiverses might be playing a part. Agent Coulson is dead. Our Agent Coulson is dead, but someone with his face has transported in from somewhere, maybe a parallel Earth, maybe another one of the multiverse, another Earth from the multiverse. We don't know that yet. I'm speculating there quite a bit, but at the moment, given what's happened, given the timeline diversions and things like that, that seems the most likely explanation to me. Look, there are a lot of unanswered questions here, and I don't know how to answer them, but I think, and it pains me to say this, that Season 6 might not be part of the same continuity as the movies anymore, but only from Season 5.5 onwards, technically. As soon as they stop time traveling, basically. So this is absolutely not, this doesn't add any weight. The fact that even if this was a different continuity now, it doesn't add any weight to people that say that it never has been part of the same continuity. No. The early seasons definitely are. But who knows about Season 6? I'm very intrigued to find out how this is going to play out, and if they're going to reference it and actually acknowledge it on screen. That would be quite interesting. Look, let me know what you think. What do you think of this theory? Do you think this is the way they've gone with this, or am I just reading too much into it? Let me know in the comments below, and yeah, let's talk about it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And I will be back for more MCU stuff in the future. So do subscribe if you like that. And I do talk about all other geeky pop culture things I like as well. So thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.